Hey everyone, me Kevin here with the next stimulus package update for July 2nd. We have a lot of news to cover this morning, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you the news and insights that I found first. Then I'm going to try to put the pieces of the puzzle together towards the end. Yesterday evening, I broke the news to you that Donald Trump on Fox News, when asked whether or not he'd support another round of direct payments, said, quote, "I do, but it has to be done properly. I support larger numbers than the Democrats," he told us. Donald Trump left us then by saying that he'd be meeting with his staff yesterday evening to make a decision on the next rounds of stimulus. This morning, Donald Trump applauded the jobs report that was released this morning. That was the long-awaited jobs report we've been waiting for a month. But the reason we've been waiting for this report is because many of us have been looking for this report to be an indicator on what we could expect for the next rounds of stimulus. This jobs report has been released. It's official, we have it. We expect it to add 1.8 million jobs in June as we continue to recover. And 2 weeks ago, I joked that I would not be surprised to see this report say that jobs rose by 5 million, but that we should take that number with a grain of salt. Well, the jobs report came in and jobs rose by 4.8 million. Crushing expectations and plummeting the super high unemployment rate to 11.1%. Now, it's still very high, but it's significantly down from the 13.3% we saw in May. However, I always like to say that the devil is in the details and context is so important. And that's something that I like doing, is going a little bit deeper past the headlines and giving you insight into what's happening in the background. And that's what I'm going to do now. The jobs report states that all of the data on this jobs report was collected during 1 week. That's called Jobs Data Collection Week. Honestly, it sounds like a really boring week in the office or at the home office. It sounds like a terribly boring week for them at the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Anyway, we already expected June to do well. However, I've been talking about this for a few weeks now, that the end of June, particularly that very last week of June, is going to be the week with probably the most potential for issues, thanks to spiking cases of the coronavirus in the South and in the Sun Belt and in California. Well, the jobs data collection week for June wasn't the last week of June. It wasn't the first week of June. In fact, let me show it to you. It's right here. This is what the jobs report looks like. This is the cover page, and I read the report. And if I jump on over to page 5 of the report, look what I find on page 5. In the household survey, individuals are classified as employed, unemployed, or not in the labor force based on their answers to a series of questions about their activities during the survey reference week. And that survey reference week was June 7th through June 13th. Folks, this really exciting data refers to jobs data from a very euphoric time where we had little fears of a second wave. Even today, the stock market opened up dramatically higher. My largest stock holding ever, Tesla, was up almost 10%. I mean, the entire stock market was going crazy this morning, especially when this jobs data was released. Except then we started realizing, oh, wait a minute. We're still having this likely second wave or continuation of the first wave, whatever you want to call it. Cases are spiking, and how much we control the coronavirus over the next few weeks is really going to be the factor that determines the future of stimulus, in my opinion. Not this report. This report references data from June 7th to June 13th. That's old news at this point. Again, we weren't concerned about a spiking then. That's when Florida governor was still saying, "We won." And this isn't to slap the governor of Florida. This is just to say that we have to be realistic. And we got to be looking at the forward-looking data, not this backwards-looking jobs data. Oh, and quick reminder, this video is sponsored by Webull. Get 2 free stocks when you deposit just $100 with the stock trading platform Webull. Enjoy. Now, you can't fault Donald Trump for immediately having a press conference. He reported this as, quote, spectacular news and, quote, record-setting, which he is right. This is both spectacular and record-setting. Unfortunately, we do still have high numbers of unemployment. Trump did go on to say that, well, again, politically motivated here, that if Biden is elected, the stock market will, quote, drop to nothing, and your 401ks will drop to nothing. He did go on then to say that we are working on a phase 4 deal and that he has already started work on that. Now, he did not give us any updates from his meeting yesterday. Remember early in this video, I mentioned that Donald Trump said he was going to go in a meeting and make a decision on the next rounds of stimulus. He didn't give us that update today. However, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin came up right after him and stated that they're still looking at those good old payroll tax cuts. And quote, we're talking about more money being infused, possibly a reference to more stimulus money. He also said that despite this good news, quote, our work is not done yet. It won't be done until every single American who lost their job is back to work. So this is good. It's almost like Steve Mnuchin came out and gave us a little bit of a dose of reality and said, don't worry, even though these numbers are good, we are still working to stimulate the economy and provide more funding to the economy, more stimulus, so that we can continue making sure that every American goes back to work. And part of going back to work means also that it's possible that schools will need support to make sure that schools are properly equipped and funded and safe. Because when kids are safe, parents can go back to work. This is actually very similar to what Mitch McConnell said yesterday when he said the next stimulus bill will be focused on, quote, kids, jobs, and healthcare. Plus, of course, liability protections. That's the one thing we keep hearing from Mitch McConnell. Treasury Secretary Mnuchin then reiterated that his intention is for only legal Americans to receive stimulus. He was bluntly asked whether or not people who are married to undocumented workers but are American citizens themselves, or their children are American citizens, whether or not they should receive stimulus. He ignored that question and just reiterated that the intention is that legal American citizens receive stimulus money and that illegal or undocumented workers do not receive stimulus money. No mention was made during this press conference by Larry Kudlow, Steve Mnuchin, or Donald Trump about anything regarding essential workers. When a reporter asked, shouting, sort of as all of them were leaving the room, what about state and local governments? Steve Mnuchin kind of turned around, shrugged, and said, well, we'll consider that. We'll have discussions, and then walked through the door and disappeared. Vice President Mike Pence, immediately after Donald Trump's press conference, went on CNBC and said that currently what's being debated is the $600 boost of unemployment, and that the last thing he wants to see happen is any taxes get raised on American families or businesses. This is obviously a slam on Biden. At the same time, the Federal Reserve, whose minutes I broke down yesterday, believes people and businesses are spending way less money because of uncertainty in the economy right now, mostly again due to the spiking coronavirus cases, and that it is quite possible that the good numbers we're seeing now could disappear. So we kind of see this sort of recalibrating towards, all right, jobs numbers good, yay, let's cheer it, but let's be real, we gotta look forward. Okay, wow, now that was a ton of news. Let's try to digest this in a very simple way. The jobs data is great, but there's an asterisk on it, and the asterisk is called the coronavirus. And let's try to piece it all together now. Trump said he had a meeting yesterday with his staff about the next rounds of stimulus, right after saying he was looking at larger numbers of stimulus than Democrats. Mike Pence, whom I bet was also at that meeting, said the only thing being debated now is a $600 per week boost for unemployment. This means that the president and his staff probably already have a plan. They already have things that they've decided on. We just don't know the details of that plan yet. Pulling together what we know, though, we can come up with some kind of expectation. And that expectation would be some form of $1,200 to maybe $2,000 one-time stimulus check, likely the first or second week of August. We already know that Trump's administration is looking to push money out as fast and efficiently as possible, especially since the IRS has clarified that's exactly what they want to do. Steve Mnuchin has clarified that, and Donald Trump has clarified that. Now, it is unclear, though, if this check would go to the same people who got it last time. The HEROES Act says this check would go to the same people as last time, if anything, more people. However, this next round might end up getting limited to people with lower income thresholds. Last time we saw $75,000 for an individual as the start to sort of the phase out where you start losing some of the stimulus benefit. I wouldn't be surprised to see that get ratcheted down. Obviously, it's becoming more and more likely now that we're going to see some form of a payroll tax cut. Now, many of us hate hearing this, but the reality is that this payroll tax cut continues to sneak up on us. At a minimum, a payroll tax cut means that you're going to take home about 6.2% more money on your pay, potentially up to like 7.65%, but just ignore that for a moment. Let's go with 6% to make math easy. If you make $17 an hour, you would now basically be making $18 an hour. Now, it's not exactly going to work that way because you're taking home an extra $1 of pay that you're not paying taxes on because a payroll tax cut is a tax savings. That gets complicated. So just to make it very, very simple, if you're making $17 an hour, it'd be like making $18 an hour. So it'd obviously take you a while to start collecting some real stimulus, but you would see a bump. If you make $8 an hour, you take home 50 cents more per hour. And if you make $34 an hour, you take home $2 more per hour. That's approximately a nice little estimation as to what a payroll tax cut would do for us. Again, that doesn't help people who are not working, and with a labor force participation rate of about 63%, that means 37% of Americans do not benefit from a payroll tax cut. Now, obviously, that does include children, but it also includes retirees. Then, of course, back to the same old, we'll probably see that $600 per week boost decline to something like a $400 to $450 boost per week for unemployment pay, plus the ability to maybe take that back to work for a bit. Now, Chuck Schumer introduced a bill that would reduce unemployment insurance pay in line with the unemployment rate falling. I broke that down yesterday, but the problem is, Chuck Schumer's bill doesn't look that great anymore now because the jobless rate is actually falling pretty fast. The Federal Reserve thought the jobless rate would stay solidly above 10% for the rest of this year, and now it looks like we're going to be dropping below 10% pretty dang soon, which, according to Chuck Schumer's bill, would drop benefits pretty dang quickly. So folks, we'll see what happens, but all I know is you gotta sign up for life insurance. A link for that down below. Get 2 free stocks with Webull, and of course, use that coupon code that is expiring in 2 days to join me in the amazing programs and chats that I have linked down below. Thank you so much, folks, and we'll see you soon.